Parmar Datri, BA English, RR
Yes, ma'am.
Mopara Arts College.
Yes, ma'am.
Datri, are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Yes. You can start your presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Is my presentation visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, okay. A very good evening to all of you. My name is Dhatri Parmar. I am a student of Bachelor of Arts last year from RR Motor Arts College, SPI MKB. Today, my topic of the presentation is racial bias and social discrimination in Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Here is a table of content. Talking about the present time, society continues to make discrimination based on ethnicity, race, sex, or gender, or other characteristics that should have no bearing on people's achievement or well-being. The plot of novella Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad centered around the seafarer named Marlowe and his journey up to the Congo River and his exploits there during a time of imperialism. Once Marlowe joined the company as a captain for a ship heading the Congo to trade, he encounters intense oppression of the African natives by members of the company. In the recent years, the state of Marlowe and even Conrad's opinion on race have been questioned due to the thematic element of oppression of black and white presented in this work. Though Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad to be a novel with a racist undertone and offensive view of African imperialism, it illustrates the discovery of a new world and a new people by Europeans in 19th century with the imperialist take opposed to the racist. When Marlowe arrives at Congo River, he is exposed to the corruption of imperialism by witnessing the destruction and torture in the inflicts on the Africans. His journey is not only into the heart of darkness geographically, but also into human devilish nature as Marlowe considered the savagery, the utter savagery, all the mysterious life of wilderness, the steers in the forest, in the jungle, in the heart of wilderness. This dialogue represents the reality of the heart of darkness. It also reveals the darker side of Western civilization as well, such as Kurz says terrifyingly, the horror. If we are talking about what is racial bias and social discrimination, racial bias is when you are biased against someone due to their race. For example, when white person has a racial bias against black person, when all other things are equal, we cannot discriminate people or we cannot be biased by someone without any just a race, a thing like a race. Talking about the social discrimination is defined as a sustained inequality between individuals on the basis of illness, disability, religion, sexual orientation, or any other measure of diversity, which is totally natural, or we can say that it is a totally geographically conditions. We cannot discriminate people by that. If we are talking about particularly in the novel, where is the some of these dialogues and the incidents where the reflection of the racial bias and social discrimination is constantly showing that when Marlowe arrives at Congo River, he explores the dark side of these African peoples, whatever the company's people are doing with the people of others. Western Floated says that Marlowe is, of course, a subdivision of Conrad's personality. It is quite ironic that Kurz is asked to make a report on International Society for the Suppression of the Savage Custom, even though he is the one who is oppressing. Kurz is the most brutal among the all colonizers. He places natives' head on the stakes because of participating in unspeakable rights and says, exterminate all the brutes at the end of his document on the civilization. Marlowe supposes company's mission on civilization in Africa as mere faced, but he also thinks that empires cannot be built without the activity that he is witnessing in Congo. Visuals and auditory images such as pilgrims, gunfires, broken lead, dodage, possibility of sudden onslaught and massacre, brutal instinct. All these words are suggest dread, senseless devastation, and inhumanity to man and imperialist desire of this person, particularly in the novel. If we are talking that Marlowe's one of the dialogue in the novel is that Marlowe described the appearance of European as a light, stretched collar, white cuff, snowy trouser, clean necklet, varnished boot, hair brushed, all. While on the other hand, he described African as he implies that the black shadow of disease and starvation, lying confusedly in the greenish gloom, dying like flies. All this situation of the African is just because of the company's whatever this operation which was doing at that time on the Africans people. So in this Marlowe, with this help of this dialect, we can clearly see the discrimination which is showing by this dialogue of the Marlowe. Native thinks that the curse is their god. They are like godlike power, and he is in reality he is the monstrous to them. They have no power to the rest because they are somewhere like a subalterns. If we are talking about the Russian trader, one of his dialogue is that you do not talk with that man, you only listen to him, which implies that the weak can only survive by compromising the powerful. Native expect the region of terror of curse without having the strength of challenging. He is colonized monster who is thirsty for ivory, raids villages, steals ivory, shoots rebels, and make them example of the rest. Cuz is obsessed with his ownership as he say, my ivory, my river, my intended, my station. At the end of novel, Marlowe says that tranquil waterway, which exhibit African silence over disastrous occurrence of racism and imperialism. We can see that Marlowe used disparaging words for describing African under personalities. Such words like unspeakable rights, stannic Italy, brutal, monstrous, vigorful, implacable, inscrutable, evil, and this kind of words are reflecting somewhere that Conrad's, we can say that Conrad's discriminative mindset or social discrimination are still going on the throughout the novel. On the one hand, Joseph Conrad plays trick with the language of portrays African as beasts, while on the other hand, humanize European in the political novella Heart of Darkness. It compromise words that are unable to express reality due to uncertainty of the language. Such as Marlowe's, these words are representing the racial mentality or social discriminate mentality of this. In this we can also say that in the conclusion, we can say that eventually throughout the novella, discrimination reflects and it shows that it happened not even 19th or 20th century, but still in the present time. In the novella, Africans are judged by their color, lifestyle, and language. In the novels, Africans were subaltern and had no voice. Like we see, the Russian trader and other Africans, they are not able to speak against the authority of Kurz and Marlowe or as a company's people. Color is fact, and it is just because of a geographical condition. Language is also a natural factor. We cannot discriminate in the basis of color, lifestyle, or language. So the people have right to their life without any oppression or in freedom. So the color is basically the fact or a reality. So we cannot discriminate people or we cannot be biased through their color or their language. So here is I'm concluding my presentation. Here is I'm putting some their work references and thank you so much for providing me stage of presentation.
Very good presentation, Parva Datri.
Thank you, ma'am.
A good presentation. And I think you're in your undergraduation, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, this
Yes,
is my
yes.
very first experience
Oh,
of
very good.
presentation.
Very good. Always first is very special. Very good. Very good.
Yes,
Really
ma'am.
good analysis. Okay. I wish to appreciate regarding your presentation. Good. You have selected some of the pictures to convey the meaning of how Marlowe has undergone or the suffering of Marlowe. It's been very effective with your pictures which you have included in the presentation. And I would like to
Thank you, ma'am.
appreciate on your part of that is where you have dealt with the narration. It's very good because, as you will agree, Parva, everything the narration is very important, right? With the way
Yes,
we
ma'am.
narrate. Okay, so very good choice that you have elaborated on that. Especially, you have taken all the words which effectively conveyed the pain or the suffering of Marlowe. Very good. I wish to appreciate that. And
Yes.
one suggestion, Datri, since you said this is
Yes,
your
ma'am.
first
Yes, ma'am.
presentation, one suggestion. Whenever you're going for presentation, regarding the slide, maybe you can concentrate on, instead of giving a kind of paragraph like or many lines are continuing, right? So instead of that, maybe you
Yes.
can go for a synoptic outline of what you wish to convey. Okay, this is again a
Okay. Okay,
suggestion
ma'am.
for your betterment. Okay, since you said this is your
Okay.
first,
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
yes,
This will help me.
oh yes, yes, that just for that. Okay,
Okay.
very good presentation, Datri. Keep it up.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, Kanna, yes. So we'll move to the next presenter,
Yes,
Shamila.
ma'am. Next presenter, Mrs. Shamala.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. You're audible.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers and chairperson for allowing me to present the paper in this platform. My topic for today's presentation is the quest for identity, the reconfiguring the self in Preeti Shenoy's The Secret Wish List. Preeti Shenoy is an Indian author and also a poet. She is a multifarious writer. Her focus is on both fiction and non-fiction. She is one of the authors among the top 5 highest selling authors in India. She is honored with Indian of the Year award by Brands Academy, and she has received Business Excellence Award by New Delhi Management Institute. She has been nominated for the Forbes long list of the most influencing celebrities of India since 2013. Chennai has authored around 15 novels so far. She has made human relationship as a center of her fictional subject. The Secret Wishlist is a gripping narrative that many married women in India have experienced. The reader can easily connect them and sympathize with the protagonist, her suffering, and her quest for individuality. The narrative depicts a woman's struggle in a patriarchal world where her own desires have no place. Marital disharmony and gender discrimination. Women have been discriminated in society as a result of the perception that they are weak, delicate, and sensitive. In the name of gender disparity, women continues to confront injustice, humiliation, trauma, harassment, oppression, and subordination. A marital life can at times help women to achieve her dreams, and sometimes it may lead her to the worst conditions. Women nowadays have almost everything at home except for freedom and self fulfillment. Women serve their husband as maidservants rather than as life partners. They want to be self sufficient. They're not entirely concerned with family responsibilities. The very fact that a woman, may it be a doctor, a wife, or a mother, is accepted to be always the giver. They are expected to sacrifice every bit of their desire if it doesn't satisfy the male section of society. Shania highlights the problem of marital discord and marital rape, which majority of Indian women silently suffers without complaining just because of the fear of the society. Women are taught to uphold the marriage customs and act in ways what the men demands. A woman's aspiration may occasionally be reinforced by marriage, but it may also lead to the worst issues such as despair, psychological trauma, and sexual harassment. In this particular novel, The Secret Wishlist, Diksha is the protagonist. She takes whatever is imposed upon her, first by her parents and then by her husband. Her husband Sandeep is an insensitive, traditional, and self centered guy. He has no emotional connection neither with his mother nor with his wife or son. He is portrayed as a chauvinistic man who only thinks about his own interest and disregards those of his wife. Diksha was a clever and open minded girl when she was a teenager, but her life has changed completely after her marriage. Being married in almost 15 years, she is always at home to take care of the house, doing household things, and raising the kids while her husband became the breadwinner. She is entirely dependent on her husband and subservient to him. She didn't have time for herself to make friends and do the things she wants. So she thought her life was worthless and meaningless. As an Indian wife, she is unable to protest, discuss, or even speak to her husband about her marital troubles or difficulties. Through the character of Diksha, Shana shows the helplessness, irritation, anger, frustration of Indian women in a conservative society. Quest for identity and reconfiguring the self. A sense of self and a distinct identity are lacking from Diksha. She would rather be recognized as her own self than as the daughter, wife, or mother of another person. Apart from these roles, she is truly nothing. The connection between a husband and wife is portrayed as one of ruler and slave. In reality, marrying a woman grants the husband the freedom to do anything he pleases, with or without her permission. Due to an early marriage, Diksha is not getting an opportunity to complete her education by her parental pressure. Here, the author wants to highlight the bitter reality that many women, being in conventional families, are not allowed to make their careers or pursue their education. Shania also depicts the life of an educated and independent woman through her cousin Viba. On the other hand, Diksha, who couldn't complete her education and got engaged into responsibilities. But she was supported and encouraged by her mother in law when she wanted to learn salsa dance. Diksha became aware of her aspiration after conversing to her friend, and she wants to accomplish her goals and strike off all the things in her wish list. As time has progressed, she has started her quest for individuality and personal identity, shoving aside the traditional self sacrificing and self denying women. The term "a new woman" in today's culture is categorized as someone who doesn't fit into conventional circles, who is independent of thought, capable of making decisions, ready to guide others, and above all, who designs her life to be the best. Here, Diksha turns out to be so expressive, gains confidence, and ultimately finds her voice by the end of the novel. She takes control over her life and decides to leave her husband because she is psychologically affected by her husband's expectation, but at last she recognizes the value of self discovery and wants to live her life on her terms. Thank you, ma'am.
Good presentation, Shamla, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, nice choice too. Wish list, good. Detailed analysis of what happened to the protagonist, good. Again, ma'am, the suggestion to you also the same. When it comes to PowerPoint presentation, better you can avoid sentence and you can go for hints, ma'am, for your further
Okay, ma'am. Okay,
presentations.
ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Fine, ma'am. Really good. Nice presentation. Thank you, Shamala, ma'am.
Tha- Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
So we are moving on to the last presenter, Devendra Kumar.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. You can begin.
Yes. A very good evening to all of you. And I am very grateful to Chairperson ma'am and Mahalakshmi ma'am. I am Devendra Kumar Yadav, a research scholar from Lalit Narayan Mithila University, Darbhanga, Bihar. My topic is the problem of cultural and religious identity in James Sinzay's plays. The contribution of X and Lady Augusta Gargari are too well known to need further comment. The agenda was set by W.B.X. and Lady Augusta Gargari to revive the glory of Ireland through the revival of Irish legend and its ancient importance, and followed by subsequent siege decline. However, they wanted to stress the importance of Irish drama on aesthetic ground without dealing with politics, agitations, and leanings. Without overt politics, Singe was advised by X to return to Ireland and visit Aran Islands and write about the people of living in those coastal areas. Singe took the advice seriously and gathered detailed information about the impoverished peasant, marginalized character, tramps, tinkers, and other wandering people. Because of hostile and unpredictable weather, however, a close look at Sinj's place shows that he did not follow access guidelines completely. Hence, a close study of Sinj's sixth place is quite necessary in order to have a close conception of Sinzei's own outlook and attitude to the Irish people, living in seclusion and facing various problems of identity crisis and cultural shock. He had, of course, studied the European playwrights of his time, like Ibsen, Brecht, and Maeterlinck, as well as the Elizabethan Jacobean playwright of England and some Irish experimenters and patrons who insisted on writing in local dialects. Synge, however, followed a mixed course and wrote in English, but captured the rhythm of spoken Irish syntax and expression and addresses methods of evocation, swearing and repeating creation expression, and also using some typical Irish phrases which were actually spoken by inhabitants and wandering beggars, farmers, tinkers, and occasional visitors. If we took at Sinzei's dramatic career and early influence and interest, it becomes clear that from the very beginning he had a magical sense and sensuousness imagination. Similarly, he was equally aware of the dilemma caused by the decline of Irish aristocracy and Catholic beliefs. His first play was failure, and it was strongly criticized. But he took the criticism seriously and tried again, and this time his first play, Shadow of the Glen, was a modest success, and Matthews has shown and T.R. Hen has concurred he was still criticized for his dramatic language, and he was called a peasant writer as well as follower of English dramatists and misrepresenting Ireland. But the fact remains that Synge was constantly experimenting his one-act, two-act, and even three-act plays and writing problematic comedies, tragedies of both Greek and Shakespearean Jacobean kind. Not only this, he reinterpreted old stories and folk tales and legends, but set his plays in remote period of history and created a fusion of local and universal elements in play after play. Hence, it is different to classify his plays within fixed dramatic norms. In the Shadow of the Glen, Riders to the Sea, and The Well of the Saints, he uses some local stories and beliefs and transforms them into a world of enduring beauty, and deals with certain marginalized and wandering tramps, thinkers, and impoverished people who are unable to cope with the civilized norms of town people. He uses his sense of comic imagination and produces a character and scenes which would now appear to be unreal and primitive. But Synge used such material for exploring the possibilities of human existence by producing a sense of conflict between man and nature, dream and reality, and wish fulfillment of Christ illusion. Consequently, his plays becomes at once real and symbolic. Now I am going to conclude. This is true of his best plays, these Riders to the Sea. It is related to man versus nature. The Well of the Saints, it is related to magic and reality. And the shadow of the gleam, it's related to the tramps and ill-matched couple. And his masterpiece, The Playboy of the Western World, it is a satire of Western civilization. And his last play, Deirdre of the Sorrows, it's the saga of Irish legend like Cuchulainn. His characterization of both male and female characters like Nora, Maria, Peggy, Mary, and Sarah, all those are female characters, and male characters like Bartley, Dan, and Christy Mahon show his creativity and originality within a narrow range. Similarly, his evocative, poetic language is at once lyrical and dramatic and shows a happy combination of dramatic prose and poetic prose in terms of dialogue and soliloquy. So that's all, ma'am. Thank you.
Good, Devendra Kumar. Nice presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, good analysis too, especially with the characters. It has been nicely brought, and you have justified your title too. Good presentation.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. So,
Thank you.
as Shakespeare, a myriad-minded dramatist climbed all's well that ends well, we have come to the end of this technical session. I would like to appreciate the efforts taken by all the presenters, Sneha, Kartikeni, Parvar, Shyamala, and Devendra Kumar. Really, all I think tried your best to come up and justified your title for your papers too. I wish to appreciate all your efforts, and I am wishing you all the very best for all your academic endeavors. For your further research and present more papers and enlighten us as you all did today. Thank you so much, all the presenters. Thank you. And as you all said, okay, let us all stamp our identity, whatever be, okay, because you all said we need to appreciate our identity. So let us all appreciate our identities, whatever be, and let us all enjoy life too. So, with this note of positivity, even though this conference is on subaltern studies, let us move with this positive note that let us enjoy our life, whatever be. Let us accept the flow. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the presenters and all the listeners too. Thank you. And I wish to register my heartfelt thankfulness to the management, Department of English, AVP College, especially special thanks to Mahalakshmi ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. I could understand the hectic schedule of yours for the past 2 days. Thank you so much,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Really, I wish to appreciate that too. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Actually, we
Yes,
have to
ma'am.
thank you. You have spent a valuable time with us and you shared your
No, it's a
ideas
pleasure,
with the
ma'am. It's a pleasure.
presenters.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
And I
ma'am.
thank all
Yes,
the
ma'am.
presenters of this session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Now let's move on to the next session. Next session chairperson, Dr. Bhagyalakshmi, ma'am. Bhagyalakshmi, ma'am, welcome you, ma'am, for this wonderful session.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Now let's have a small intro about our chairperson, Bhagyalakshmi, ma'am. Indu.
Yes, ma'am. I have the great privilege in introducing this session's chairperson, Dr. Baki Lakshmi, Research Department of English, Tripur Kumaran College for Women, Tripur. She has more than 16 years of teaching. She has produced 6 MPhil scholars and currently she is guiding 6 PhD and 3 MPhil scholars. She presented papers in various national and international. She published more than 10 articles in UGC Careless journals and in peer-reviewed. She served as a member in Board of Studies, also serving as a question paper setter for Bhagar University and autonomous colleges. She acted as a resource person for a workshop on research methodology. Ma'am, you can now take over the session, ma'am.
Thank, thank you, ma'am. Is it audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Good evening to all the organizing committee and all the participants. Let's move on to the session. First of all, we can invite Vishwapriya to present the paper.
Okay.
Vishwapriya, you can start.
Good evening, everybody. This is Vishwapriya from Don Bosco College, Elagri. I would like to thank everybody for this conference, and I thank professors and chairperson um, to give me this opportunity to present. And my topic is Voice of the Subordinate Woman in Otto Okot Bitek poem. My husband tongue is bitter. Domination with a high hand happens throughout the world in different ways and in different situations. Women were subjugated everywhere, both in families and in society. Even the low caste people subjugated in their families, women are subjugated more. They suffer more. Uh, so I would like to uh, say the worries, the laments of Lionel in this through this poem. Patriarchy is a term where men hold power over women and they remain subjugated. The author is an Ugandan poet. He is one among the African poets. He wrote three collections of poems: the Song of Lino, the Song of Okol, and two songs. The My Husband Tongue is Bitter is taken from the Song of Lino. The It is an analysis of Lionel's laments. He laments for his own husband. He did not respect her feelings, and she insults both her and her family members, parents, and even he disrespects his own black community. Uh, the fact is he is also already a black man. He was civilized. He read intensively, so extensively. So he thinks that he is civilized. He became modern. So he feels that his own culture, own tradition is utterly harmful. It's a primitive, and he says that his own, but she is not attractive. So he wants a modern girl. Uh, so he has an affair with a girl named Clementine. So she is also a black woman, but she adopts the culture of Westerners. She put makeups, lipsticks. Uh, so the descriptions I have given, like she looks, even she's makeup, but she feels that it looks like open ulcer. Uh, the author gave the words that her husband given to us, like, sorry, what he uses the words for her and her parents, like is uh, uses abusive words, both her and her parents, and he forgets his own culture is exploiting. He thinks is a culture tradition is it's not fine because he is red. So he moved to Clementine. So Lavano Lionel laments not only for her personal problems, that his husband is not good with her, not respecting her. That problem is aside, but she feels for the exploitance of her own culture, tradition, and so on. So I want to conclude that learning other language or learning other culture uh, is good for our future, but entirely uh, entirely using or entirely we can't change to other culture, because this is our culture. So we can't, if we are going, so we are betraying our own culture. So I have to picturize that now we Indians are also colonized by colonizers. we even we started like we adopt some styles of Westerners, some culture, some traditions like dresses, like we change, but we should uh, have the thought that by generation by generation it can exploit. So we have to aware of our culture tradition. So that's it, ma'am.
Thank you, Vishwapriya. Very nice presentation and a good selection of text for this Subaltern Studies International webinar.
Thank you.
So, the author BTech, BTech, says that it is a part of culture. We have to follow our own tradition and culture to say our own tradition, isn't it?
Okay. He expresses feelings through this poem, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Vishwapriya. Very nice presentation. Now we can call upon Hari Narayan Deka.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. The title of my today's topic presentation is Indigeneity and Subalternity, Contextualizing Tamsula Ausenla's Story. So, to begin with, I would like to give a brief introduction of the author. Tamsula Aus, a contemporary creative woman author from the Northeast. She was born in 1945 and died very recently in 2022. She is a poet and a fiction writer and an ethnographer from Nagaland, Northeast India. She is also the recipient of Sahitya Academy Award for English writing in the short story category for her work Lebanon for My Head in 2013. She is also Padma Shri Awardee of 2007 for her contribution to literature and education. Above all, she is a pioneer of the Northeast Indian literature in English. Analyzing her Ausenla's story, I would like to mention that in Ausenla's story, Tamsala Au's protagonist is an indigenous Au Naga lady. The plot deals with her personal journey from an early forced marriage up to her struggle to being a wife, daughter-in-law, and a mother. The protagonist, Ausenla, is a girl who loved to go to college and sought intellectual exposure. Her intellectual journey for self-fulfillment has come to an abrupt end at her family, as her family pressurized her into marrying an older man from an affluent family. Devoted to her studies, she fights back and tries to get out of this marital alliance, but is outnumbered by her family members who do not understand her. Her journey of struggle goes on with patriarchy, social taboos, cultural barriers, family problems, and secrets and self-doubt. This book gives the readers an uncomfortable and helpless situation because of Ausenla's character as a meek and obedient wife, a voiceless subaltern, disrespected even by her husband and her family. And adding to her misery, the birth of two baby girls continuously, despite the desperate expectation of the in-laws family for a boy, makes it a more pathetic situation. Now, indigeneity and subalternity, as observed in her text, Ausenla's story is a fiction about an indigenous woman by an indigenous author dealing with women's subjugation and patriarchal hegemony. This women protagonist revolves around indigenous sociocultural and socioeconomic spaces within the realms of nationhood. The first half of the book gives us the sad but a true picture of the Naga society afflicted by the belief and practice of ignorant traditions, customs, and superstitions. When Ausenla comes close to forming a friendship with the family physician, Dr. Kilang, the social taboos do not permit her to do that with a man who is not a family member. However, the readers can rejoice with the changes or the transformation of the plot that takes place from the second half of the book when Ausenla becomes more determined and strong to have a voice in the family as well as in the society. Now, contextualizing indigeneity and subalternity, her story is a bitter experience of many women for all the ages, for all the places. Born in an unprivileged family, a marriage to a rich man's son uh, was, a, was an ideal choice for her dad to force his daughter to marry when she was yet to finish her college education. So this story is not only about an indigenous Naga girl, but of many women, as it heartbreaks all human beings. This fictional story depicts how tradition and customs can still exert mounting pressure on people's lives in this seemingly modern generation. This is a story of a woman whose journey to search for her true self gives the readers the confidence to be in control of the circumstances. The Naga society is essentially patriarchal. The males are always the decision makers. The rules assigned to women are strictly defined by the traditions. So gender-based regulations of Naga society affect several of the important life aspects, their education, religion, property, politics, etc. So besides the Aunaga customary laws and these customary laws always make the women deprived of their various rights and positions in the society. So to conclude, ma'am, Ausenla's story highlights the status of women in the indigenous and patriarchal Naga society. The patriarchal domination is evident in the Naga society where women have social subjugation and subordination. Tamsola House representation of the marginalized group definitely unveils the miserable treatment of women in a society. Although the story revolves around the incidents of Nagaland, but they certainly have a greater relevance as this can be found throughout the Northeast region. Moreover, these stories are the unheard voices of the subaltern from each corner of the globe. So Ausenla's story presents an interesting and thought-provoking theme which might help one to clear the air of uncertainty hovering in the minds of many who sought the answer to equality and justice. So thank you, ma'am. This was fun. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Harinarayan Deka. It's a very nice presentation, and you spoke on indigenous stories of Nagaland, especially the representation of women in Naga society through the Asanala story.
Yes,
Thank you,
yes.
sir. You have given a very nice presentation, and your ideas are uh, very much eagerly invited by the organizers, especially to this conference.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Next, we can invite Mr. Devendrapa Mallikarjun
Yes,
to
ma'am.
present the paper.
Yeah, ma'am. I'm ready, ma'am. I'm audible, ma'am.
Yes, sir. You can
Yeah.
start.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. The title of the paper is "The Resistance and Identity: A Post-Colonial Feminist Study of Ismet Chughta's Fiction." The major concern of this paper is to look Ismet Chughta's works through post-colonial feminist lens, who reconstruct the patriarchal culture by examining the socio-political and economic conditions of women and reconstruct the lost identity of third world women. So, Ismat Chugtai, one of the dominant and recognized literary figures in the Indian subcontinent, she has brought a new vision and created a new dimension not only in Indian literature but the world literature as well. Her art is the art of life sex, wherein she attempts to revolutionize the Indian society in general and the women's world in particular. Uh, Women's world in particular, hegemony, resistance, and revolt, identity, and marginalization are some predominant ideas and themes which Chugtai debates in her writings. Born in British India, Chugtai raises the voice of double marginalized women in the subcontinent who is not only suppressed by her own people but also by the colonial powers. Chugtai, through her narratives, demonstrate how the women in general and Muslim women in particular have been hegemonized by the patriarchal and colonial forces. Identity, which is very diverse and complex creation in the social and political discourse, has been come under the question by the author. Through her characters, she attempts to show the resistance under the colonial regime against the male-dominated society. In her novel, The Crooked Line, she portrays the highly disturbing experience of the marginalized masses. The character Shaman, who symbolizes the Chuktai's own life, and in this way, author uses Shaman as her own mouthpiece. She revolts, resists, and hits back to the colonial patriarchal system which has taken everything under their control. She is an innocent child who turns to be rebellious and hyperactive when she is being ignored and marginalized. Uh, She never succumbs to be lies of others because someone felt as if she had been orphaned. She was feeded by wet nurse Una and was taken care by Badi Appa. So portraying this kind of character of Shaman, Chuktai indirectly slams the mainstream feminist who has been sidelining the third world women and overlook their marginality and suppression, which is harsher and crueler than the oppression which the Western women face. The following lens shows the male-dominated oppression and the colonized women's resistance when the narrator says, I quote and unquote, Manju cursed and scolded her. Shaman had been experiencing a desire to hit people. Suddenly, for no apparent reason, she was beset with this urge to hit someone, to knock and crush somebody with her chubby fist. She felt the urge to strike her doll. First, she gave it a few mild cautionary slaps, but then she lost control and began to pummeling and kicking the doll with her hands and feet. Soon, she was shredding with her teeth and nails, behaving as though she were face to face with a menacing adversary. Here, double marginalization can be seen when Shaman is being treated as other and ignored. She feels emotional crisis and mental trauma because the worst experience which she gets from her surroundings. She feels all the time isolated and dejected. It is the reason she turns out to be rebellious against a male oppression and feels that she would be seized with the desire to strike somebody. The author portrays the character of double oppressed Indian woman who fears like someone and does find a way to express herself. The door of women liberation of the West seems also closed for the such voices because they were not being heard there. Like someone who wanted to be wipe out the frightful marks, and it is placed new line, a neat and calm line. In this regard, one of the critic opens in feminism and contemporary Indian women's writing. I quote and unquote, the Indian woman's identity is often riddled with a sense of insecurity. This is because in patriarchal society like ours, she is denied roots even in her parental family. In most part of Indian daughters are considered pariah dhan, an alien's wealth, and excluded from her full membership and their fatal families after marriage. Even in her marital home, her rights are fragile. In case of breakdown of her marriage, she can easily be turned out of their home. So this is the condition of women are facing even in a contemporary society. In her another novel, The Masoom, which is published in 1961, portrays the causes and consequences of social setup and the interrelation between the different members of society. The economic cause is one of the major causes shown by the author during the time of colonial rule and how women become a victim and turns into harlot. Chupta exposes the male hypocrisy and grand narrative which has portrayed women a dangerous creature and the bloat in the society. It is not women's true choice that she would choose the profession of prostitution, but it is the male-dominated society which has compelled her to turn into this operation. The narration the narrator says, I quote and unquote, 4 months rent, servant salaries, amount owed by shopkeeper, electricity bill, washerman's bill, children's school fees, water rises above my head, drowning. I float up and see my living breath, 16 years old daughter, skipping rope with her young friends. The above passage indicates the different issues and matters the woman has faced and her responsibility in the colonized male-dominated society. The darkest narrative of the novel reflects the colonized operation of the trading women's body and gender inequality. According to the author, was at pinnacle during the time of colonial era. The women in the Masum experienced double and sometimes triple marginalization. The core association between colonialism and patriarchy has kept the woman under their thumb, and she is deprived her basic the basic freedom. Chuktai vehemently slams the patriarchal nature of the society. One of the author remarks that patriarchy, as a matter of fact, holds a potential to dehumanize the other half of history. Patriarchy is operating not only in the personal level but also at the political level. There is a serious interaction between the private matters and different power structure that coexist in the society. So, women who always, especially in the colonial period, become the worst victim of the male subjectivity, fail to raise their voice. Chuktai narrates the tale of a woman who defines her terms in relation to the male needs in the society. Her social role and the position in society is also assigned by male-dominated society. Woman is not only looked as an autonomous being, which is free and autonomous, but is and was dependent on her other beings. Agrawal remarks, one of the critic Agrawal, he remarks, during the childhood, woman must depend on her father, during youth upon her husband being dead upon near kinsman of her husband. In default, upon those of her father, if she had no paternal kinsman upon a sovereign, a woman must govern herself as she likes. So I'm concluding my presentation saying that not only Masum are the crooked line, but Chuktai's every narrative reveals the inner consciousness of the woman character whose lives revolve around their dreams and aspiration, and they dependent on them. She highlights the violence which created by the colonialists and the patriarchs, then reveals the concern with the theme of anxiety, predicament, and anguish, and anguish by threats to individual identity and in relation to reality. Her characters find the real world too much insensitive, unpleasant, and complex. There are some intense issues regarding the protagonist and their state of predicament which they are experiencing in their daily routine. The woman character of Gupta's fiction aspire for freedom and self-identity from the male hegemony and colonial oppression. All characters from Gupta's need freedom and justice to her personality and her individuality, which the existing patriarchal setup with the uneven power division does not grant her. They were, as Feroza Jishuwala puts in her poem, Fractured, none will hold women, broken and fragmented, afraid to touch cracked glass like a shard of crystal glassware dropped in the deliberate abandonment of betrayals. Wrote by callous men, grief is painful to contemplate in purple pensiveness. This is my concluding version. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Devendrappa Mallikarjun. It's a very nice presentation, and I appreciate your work.
Thank
My
you, ma'am.
wishes to your research work for further proceedings. And you have given the ideas of Ismat Chughtai's fiction, all the feministic aspects of her fiction. Thank you so much. Your presentation is very neat and clear.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Now we can invite Mr. Gopi. Gopi, are you there? Now we can move on to, yes, Gopi, yes, you can proceed.
Okay, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. The title of my paper, Feminism in the Good evening, everyone. The title of my paper, Feminism in the My Husband Tank is Bitter by Pocket Bitter. The word culture is so important word that is playing which roles in the society. E- Every culture expected and followed only by their own people, and every culture stands against one another by their own people. The culture itself, something that is being created, and they still believe that the, the hello, ma'am, I'm audible. Hello.
Yes, sir.
The word culture is so important word. In this poem, my husband Tank is betrayed by Pocket because the Bukadan poet who most all the time concentrate on his own tradition and culture after colonization. In this poem, actually taken from the collection of poems called Son of Love, that is the poem actually taken from a collection of poems called Song of Love, and it is been translated and widely read by the nations. The theory of feminism, where the main female character, is not given the respect and treated well by her own husband itself. Still, people that woman has been faced only the kitchen, and they are meant only to sacrifice their happiness for people in the family. This is what has been followed for years and centuries and still believed to be followed. The conclusion of my paper, the education an important case which affect in society, and the same culture and the practices stands against the life in society. It's going to be the main concept of in this article. Thank you to all. Ma'am, I'm audible?
Yes, Gopi. Thank you, Mr. Gopi. And
Okay, ma'am.
all these research works and studies are made here just to say that we have to avoid the subjugation of women. So it should not be followed in the forthcoming days or years or centuries.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we can go for Miss Gokula Nandini. Gokula Nandini.
I think she's not here, ma'am.
Okay. So can we wind up the session, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Bhakya ma'am, for spending your valuable session with us, time with us.
Thank you, ma'am. And the report of the session, in this technical session, we have seen different genres, different texts of notable authors of African literature, Indian writing in English, Urdu literature, indigenous literature of Nagaland, etc. We have seen subalternity expressed in these texts, and I appreciate the sincere efforts made by the participants to come out with new findings. My best wishes to all the participants for their a great research career ahead. I sincerely thank to the management, Department of English of AVP College of Arts and Science for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this international virtual conference on subaltern studies. I especially thank Dr. L. Mahalashmi for
Thank you.
inviting me for this session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And also, I thank the presenters of this session.
The next technical session starts, ma'am.
Yes, yes, we can go with the next session.
Yes, ma'am. Now I am happy to introduce the woman behind us with motherly care, special and most important person, Dr. L. Mahalakshmi, ma'am, Assistant Professor and Head, AVP College of Arts and Science. She has 14 years of experience in teaching. She is the Senate member of Bardier University, and she is also the member in English Language Teaching and Association of India. She has been the resource person, guest lecturer, and chief guest in various colleges. She also organized numerous guest lectures, seminars, webinars, and faculty development programs. We are pleased to have that such eminent personality today. Ma'am, now I request you to move the session along.
Thank you, Pavitra ma'am, for your wonderful introduction given to me. Now I invite the first presenter of the session, Chandrasekhar Srivas and N.K. Swami. Are you here? Next presenter, Kevi Binyo Nugile.
Yes, ma'am.
The participants, presenters.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Will you present now?
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. The title of my paper is Ecological Concern and Women's Space in Astérine Curé's Select Works. A poet and novelist, Astérine Curé is a prolific Northeast writer and who captures the attention of the readers through her works. Her writings revolve around the people and the environment of our hometown Nagaland. Son of the Thundercloud 2016 is about the traveler narrator, Pelevotso, and his journey to find the village of weavers. He is regarded as a carrier of regeneration because the moment he steps in the abandoned village, rain sets in for which the ancient sisters have been waiting for 300 years. The work represents the picture or future of what will happen to our land if proper measures are not taken to protect the natural resources. Through the great famine that hit Pele's village and swipes away the entire villager, it indicates that nature is equally important for humans to survive. Concern for nature in this novel is presented through the lines, I quote, "The earth was so dry that the soil no longer looked like soil. It had cracked apart, the brown color had gone from the soil, and if the traveler were to describe it, he would call it gray, that gray," unquote. The earth will therefore take no time to fade if proper measures to preserve it is not taken. Similarly, Kire presents the picture of nature or the earth when proper care is taken without being disturbed by humankind. I quote, "It's called birthing. The earth has birthed trees, rocks, stones, and grain, just as a mother births her offspring. The trees and rocks are the sons of the earth. Take care of them and they will take care of you and your children," unquote. Kire, therefore, through the character Pele, projects that each of us is responsible for the smooth functioning of the natural world. An instance is where Pele was required to collect woods to build a house, but he was careful not to cut too many trees in the same area. He did not wish to disturb the fragile ecology. The vegetation was new and young, and he feared that any sudden disturbance of that newly found balance would cause greater damage than could be repaired. Therefore, through this novel, it serves as a reminder to appreciate and preserve nature where it is still when it is still under our control. I quote, "Even the man would have to be very careful and remember to respect nature," unquote. When the River Sleeps 2014 presents the protagonist Villiers, who goes out in an adventurous journey to achieve his dream. As the novel starts, Villiers states, "The forest is my wife," to present the idea that nature provides everything for a man. On his journey, he was advised by the old man to take certain herbs like sienna or bitter wormwood and tierhertefe, a soft-leaved plant with a rather unpleasant smell. Days without any food, he survived the long journey because of the food that the forest provided him with. The richness of nature and the way it proves to be helpful is projected through this work. Likewise, Sky is My Father 2018 is a beautiful blend of the human lives with that of nature and the environment. The novel brings forth the memory of the battle fought between the Briton and the warrior village of Connemara. I quote, "Connemara nestles amid mountains," unquote, "that are as high as 7,000 feet, a little village on a small hillock cradled by gaunt mountains that form a natural fortress. Curie chronicles the effort of the villagers, the way they have preserved the ecology from the past till the present. The women characters here as well worked tirelessly in the field in spite of the heat, and even in such state they did not complain, but along with rain, it takes away all their weariness," unquote. Quote, "But a little rain refreshes you and keeps you cool enough to work on," unquote. Nature has been therefore a part for long of human life. When Caesar falls ill and prays to Kepeniofa, that is God, he thinks that he will die but remembers the words of his ancestors. I quote, "Sky is my father, earth is my mother, I believe in Kepeniofa," unquote. Thus, looking into the three novels, one can say that Kire has knitted ecology and literature together to put forward her thoughts and to warn the society of the consequences that may befall if our exploitation of nature continues. To conclude, ecological concern has been one of the major issues that varied writers attempted to portray in their writings to spread awareness on the present environmental condition. Therefore, landscape in a piece of literature does not only convey the meaning of the natural beauty, but also the way man treats nature and how it functions. It is through this kind of works we as readers are enlightened with what has to be done for the future world so that the next generation do not follow the same pattern. In other words, these works serves as a medicine for the illness that has affected almost all the people. Therefore, this paper is an attempt to redirect the mind of the readers towards the value of nature for man and take into this kind of writing as awareness novels. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. That was my presentation.
Thank you, Nubili. You have presented. Yes, thank you. You have wonderfully presented your ideas on ecological concern and women's space in the Eastern Select Works. Due to time constraint, you have very shortly and simply presented your thoughts and ideas. Thank you so much. Beautifully presented. Next, I'll move on to third presenter,
Thank you, ma'am.
Aaron Teron. Aaron Teron is here. Aaron Teron from PhD scholar, Assam University. Okay, next, Megha Samant. Megha Samant is there. Akansha, Sridarshi is there. Next presenter, Sridarshini.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Sridarshini, you may present your paper.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Srideshni, and today I'm here to talk about the religion in our society. As we know, religion has played a significant role in shaping our culture and history. It has influenced the way we think, behave, and interact with one another. Religion has been around for thousands of years, and it has served as a source of comfort, guidance, and hope for people across the globe. It has provided us with a moral compass, a set of values, beliefs that help us to navigate the complexities of life. However, religion has also been the cause of conflict and divisions throughout our history. We have seen how different religious beliefs have led to wars and discrimination. It is important to acknowledge the negative effect of religion and work towards promoting peace and harmony. In today's world, we see a growing trend of secularism. People are questioning People are questioning the relevance of religion in the modern era. However, I believe that religion still has a significant role to play in our society. It provides a sense of community and belonging, and it can be a source of strength during difficult times. As we move forward, we need to find ways to bridge the gap between different religions and promote tolerance and understanding. We must recognize while we may have different beliefs, we are all human beings with the same hope and dreams. In conclusion, religion has both positive and negative effects on our society. It is up to us to ensure that it is used for betterment of humanity. Let us work towards creating a world where all religions are respected and celebrated. Thank you for your listening. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sridharshini. You have presented wonderfully and how to bridge the gap between all the religions and how to avoid the inequality. Really wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Next, we shall move on to the next participant. Neha Samant is here. Neha Samant. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
You can present your paper.
Okay, thank you,
You
ma'am.
can present your paper.
About spiritual crisis of identity of Leo Tolstoy's work. The concept of identity crisis talks about the stage of confusion one person started to feel in life, a phase of uncertainty in which a person started to question his identity, existence, and beliefs that he was experiencing and living with till now. The person started to question who he is and what is the purpose of his life. And this situation happens when the person is hit by certain things that shake the belief system in which he or she used to believe till now, or when a certain big change occur in their life due to stress or mental trauma. This sudden occurrence of spiritual crisis happen after some events like a near death experience that Ivan and Ray and Pere experienced that changed their way of looking at things, existential crisis, some spiritual experiences, and realization of their mistakes. And self doubts are some of the reasons that an urgent need to search for a meaningful path emerges within them. In most of his work, most of his work, like Anna Karenina, Resurrection, War and Peace, and Death of Ivan Ilyich, presented the inner struggle of his character. Uh, all of a sudden, an occurrence of an event disrupt the easygoing flow of their life, which led them to reevaluate their purposes, beliefs, attitude, and conception of life, which earlier seems to be the only truth and correct way of living. All of a sudden, after the disruption, seems to be a lie, and an urgent need to search for the real identity emerges within their conscience, and this spiritual crisis changes their whole identity. This new acceptance of their newly discovered identity or self gives us spiritual salvation and eternal bliss as stableness within themselves. The sudden changes in their characters, perception, attitude, and identity bring them towards a meaningful change, and that enhances their ability to comprehend their actions. The spiritual crisis saved them by causing a meaningful disturbance that release them from their inner suffering that they experience after recognizing their wrong deeds. Although in some characters' life, these crises do occur very late, it is this presentation of disillusionment and spiritual awakening, realistically and factually, that make Tolstoy's work more noteworthy and appealing to the majority of people who can find their replica in the characters' crisis, sins, and spiritual awakening. With this note, I would like to end my topic. Thank you, ma'am. Hello. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, thank you, Neha Samant. Yeah, yes, you are audible. You are very much audible. You have given a beautiful presentation on Leo Tolstoy's work by mentioning his famous writings, Anna Karenina and War and Peace. And actually, he's an unbelievable writer. He changed the world through his writing.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Your title and your explanation was thought provoking, and you have given good ideas. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Next, I would like to invite the presenter, Aaron Tiron, is there. Aaron Tiron. Yes, or she's not there, it seems. Dear admins, shall we wind up the session with a short Thanksgiving?
Is that over, ma'am?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. All the same. All the presenters were presented. One presenter alone was not there.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Chandrasekhar Srivas, two were not there. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
At the outset, I say at the outset, I thank my management, Chairman Sir Dr. M.D.A. Karthikeyan and Dr. M. Leelavati ma'am, Principal of AVP College of Arts and Science, and my department faculty members, and my dear students, and Cape Coberon Trust members who have rendered their wholehearted support throughout this entire 2 days international conference. And we have, and also my heartfelt and warm thanks to the resource persons, that is the plenary speakers of all the sessions for both the days, and also the chairpersons who has readily accepted my invitation and chaired the session by sharing their beautiful ideas and thoughts.